All right, well, it's 11 o'clock, so we really value your time. We're going to try to do this within 30 minutes so you can get back to the rest of your day. But I'd like to start by introducing Brian Bates of Bates Security, and he's going to kick us off. Brian, say hello.
Hey, good morning, and thank you for joining us. My name is Brian Bates with Bates Security and Heron MSP. At Bates Security, we've been providing security, video, fire, and access control services for over 35 years. In that time, we've seen most of the technology move to the client's network. We've also seen that more focus is needed on making sure that the network we're connecting to itself is secure. Clients should be able to depend on a high level of service and knowledge to keep their critical infrastructure running at optimal levels. And for that reason, we began Heron MSP in partnership with industry leaders in the space. And we've all seen ransomware and cybersecurity in the headlines. Businesses are being shut down and extorted regularly, not just big pipelines or processing plants, but regular businesses who depend on their computer networks to serve their clients. And today, we're pleased to bring in experts from physical and network security teams. We have Danny Goodpaster, who is the sales manager for the largest locally owned and operated security company in Kentucky, with years of experience in video, security, access, and fire systems, along with Justin Kane, who is an IT and cybersecurity expert, and Danielle Pond, who produces great content surrounding the IT industry, who will be helping us deliver a great webinar today. Danny, people often ask me, what is cybersecurity and how does that affect me and my business?
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, cybersecurity is a pretty broad term that includes securing data and the technology systems responsible for moving and authenticating data. For businesses, cybersecurity encompasses technology that's in place to help keep your business safe, the people and processes that ensure your business stays safe, and the education to ensure your employees remain vigilant against potential cyber threats. Justin, what are you seeing most businesses do about their cybersecurity today?
Yeah, Danny, the funny thing is unfortunately, a lot of people are still ignoring it. They're sweeping it under the rug. Some of the bigger players in the game, the bigger organizations, obviously, that have larger budgets, they are doing some things about it. But most of the small and medium business market is really ignoring it. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of buzzwords, around cybersecurity. Everybody's hearing, the term, but a lot of people, when they hear that, they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to spend a massive amount of money to help secure my organization, or this is going to be way too much work to really do it correctly. And so that leads to really businesses just ignoring it. They're either trying to attempt some small things on their own, or they're just not getting the things that they need done. Their software is outdated. Their computers are not patched properly. Their firewall switches, things like that. The firmware is outdated, and ultimately these hackers that are out there, they know that. They know what they're looking for, and ultimately, if you're one of those organizations that isn't, subscribing to the latest and greatest of cybersecurity, they're going to take advantage of that. And so, what we're seeing is these hackers out there. There's two kind of major things that are happening right now. Everybody, I'm sure, is aware. They've heard the pipeline that recently got attacked and shut down. That was ransomware, right? So, meaning these hackers got into some systems. They deployed some software on those systems and ultimately encrypted the data of these companies to the point where they can't get it back unless one of two things: they have a proper strategy, backup strategy that they can recover from, or they pay a ransom. They actually pay to try and get that data back. The other thing that we're seeing a lot is social engineering. And by that, we mean simply these hackers know who to look for in an organization. They'll browse LinkedIn and find the weak link, if you will, of a company, and they will call or email and try to trick that person into providing information. And what they're really trying to do ultimately is, usually what we're seeing right now, is wire fraud. They'll weasel their way into a conversation, and basically try to get this person or company to wire money to a false account. It's really a prevalent thing in almost every industry we're dealing with now. We know, Danny, that really the stats are 95% of all breaches are caused by human error. Something like clicking on an email, a link in an email, or just not paying attention, and like I mentioned, sending money to a false account. And so, you know, what we're seeing is that with a simple education of staff, we can really mitigate a lot of these things. Danny, I think we've seen some of this. We've clearly seen some of this in some of our clients. Can you tell me a little bit about that breach that we had with one of our clients not too long ago?
Yeah, this is along the lines of the wire fraud, Justin. We were made aware of a nonprofit organization where an attacker gained access to a user's mailbox. This just happened to be the CFO of this organization. The attacker realizes what they have, and they sat and watched the emails and learned what they do, how they communicate, and how they can best attack. The attacker then created fake emails that are sent from the CFO's mailbox to another accounting department employee. The attacker created email rules that delete return emails from that user before the CFO sees them. So all pretty sophisticated. He or she instructed the accounting department employee to create 3 separate wire transfers in the amounts of $500,000, $250,000, and then another $250,000, totaling $1 million in transfers. This is not out of the norm for the organization to do when purchasing plots of land or buildings. So the attacker deleted all the history from the CFO's mailbox, and it was only found out when the CFO went to pull money for a project and the account was nearly emptied. Did we mention this was a church? If you think that you're not a target because of what you do, or you're too small, or they don't care because I do X, Y, or Z, you're wrong. Everyone out there can be a target of this type of attack.
Yeah, it's definitely a everyone for themselves thing now. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. They're just out for money.
Yeah, so Justin, you know, what can happen? This is one example, but what can happen if folks don't do anything? What are some other costs of not protecting yourself from cyber attacks?
Yeah, you know, Danny, it's obviously there is a financial impact. It's usually the unfortunate outcome of all of these, but it's not only financial. There's productivity. If you get hit with ransomware and you don't have a proper channel to get back up and running quickly, your business could be down for weeks, depending on how bad it is. You know, there's obviously also you know, things like financial costs for the attorneys that you possibly have to bring in. Just the simple loss of productivity of having to deal with your insurance companies, you know, everything like that. It's not a simple, yeah, we paid a ransomware and we're back up. You know, we paid the ransom, we're back up and running. It really could potentially shut down your business. And we're not trying to say that to scare people, but really, I mean, what is the cost if you potentially lose all of your customer data, if you can't get it back? You know, it's potential. There's a potential. We've seen it. Some businesses have had to close their doors because they can't get their information back, and they didn't have the proper channels to really recover from it.
It sounds like really kind of a ripple effect of consequences if there were a breach like this. Justin, in your experience, what have we learned to ensure our clients can protect themselves?
Yeah, of course. You know, it's really it's a multi-tier approach. You know, it's not one simple thing that you can do. One of the biggest things that we're dealing with right now and that we're really working towards is educating our employees, educating our clients, knowing that if you run across something, this is what it looks like. Spending the time to make sure that your employees know that even something as simple as clicking a link in an email could potentially affect your entire organization. Making sure that they know what a phishing email looks like, knowing what a fake website looks like, and ultimately educating them on the ways that these hackers are getting in. It's a really simple process, but then ultimately the other thing is making sure that you have tools and systems in place that really, if or when something happens, that you know it and you know how to recover from it. And then the bigger thing is, Danny, is testing your plans, testing your plan of action, knowing if something happens, what do you do? How do you recover from it? Where is the data, or where was the data? What was the data? Knowing the holistic approach of if something happens, what do we do is so critical. We see time and time again that, hey, we had a breach, we have no idea what they did. We don't know what they gathered. And then you have to pay a forensic team to come in and really uncover what it was, what did they do, what did they get? It can really, really be cumbersome.
Justin, you were showing me yesterday, and we kind of had a last minute add to our slides here, how some of these things can be cloaked in sort of a harmless social media post that seems like it's just nice, fun information that you're putting out there as far as sharing, what was your first car or things like that. And so we thought we'd share that for some things to look out for. Can you talk a little bit about this and how they disguise these types of attempts to gather information?
Yeah, Danny. So I find myself screenshotting these things as I browse Facebook every once in a while when I see them. They seem so harmless when you're doing it. But Danny, when you set up a new account for pretty much anything nowadays, they ask you 3 security questions. Generally, you have to fill it out. What is one of those security questions that you always have to answer?
I see a lot of like, what was the street name that I grew up on, or what was my first pet's name growing up, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So clearly you can see in these posts right here that I screenshotted, the car you've passed your driver's test in. Well, ultimately one of those security questions is what was the first car that you ever drove? And unfortunately, 277,000 people commented on this post with what their first car was. The other clever one that they do is, your so-and-so name is your middle name and the first car you had. They disguise these things. They know what they're looking for. Some of these are harmless. I'm sure 96.9 The Eagle had no clue what they were posting when they did, but these hackers know that. They're watching these social media posts. They know what they're looking for, and you have literally just given them the keys to access your accounts. A lot of times you go through a password reset process and it wants to send you an email and confirm that. A lot of times you can bypass that process by answering the security questions, and you have literally put them on the internet. 1.9 million comments on that second post there. I love this little post here, but the last one is just stop giving out your personal info on social media. There is someone watching. They're always watching.
Gosh, it's so tempting though, Justin, because I grew up in the 80s and I want to play that game, right? But we got to sort of, that was information that you shared that I didn't even think that would be something that they're gathering my personal information.
Absolutely.
So with all this in mind, what are you seeing businesses do to protect themselves, Justin? What are some of the minimum things? If I'm thinking about securing my data and adding cybersecurity, what should I be thinking about as a business owner?
Of course, the short answer is there's a lot of things you can do. The longer answer is there's a lot of free things you can do. It's not going to cost you anything to do these things. It may take you time. It may take energy and effort from you and your staff to do it, but ultimately it's not going to cost you any money to do it. Things like knowing what computers you have, what is your actual asset inventory, knowing what should and should not be connecting to your corporate data, your business data, or if you have employees that are using personal devices for their emails, or whatever access that they're accessing from, knowing what those are and who they are, so that if something happens, you know where to go look. Putting policies and procedures in place. We talked about that a few minutes ago, but really putting things on paper. If something happens, what do we do? What are the policies? Even things like a BYOD policy. They've been around, that term's been around for a long time, but putting policies in place that if your employees are using personal devices or outside devices, that you have policies in place to protect you and the organization. And again, the biggest one, employee training. Let your employees know what's happening. Train them on what's happening, what to look for. It's one of the easiest things that you can do, that it could stop one person from clicking an email or downloading some file and shutting you down. Show them what's happening, because so many don't. Just like the social media examples a minute ago, people just don't know. And so letting them know that this is what's happening is so critical. And then ultimately, Danny, what we do as an organization is there's 900 things out there that you can follow, but we follow and subscribe to the NIST CSF framework, okay? And that's a fancy way of saying the government has put out what they call the CSF, cybersecurity framework. It is a step-by-step process that helps you understand an organization like yours. These are the steps that you need to follow to be secure, to secure your items. It's a multi-phase thing. Now, it can be complicated. There are businesses and organizations like us that can help you get from A to Z. But it's what we've done. It's what we've implemented with all of our programs that we put together to truly help put a comprehensive plan together to secure these organizations.
Justin, for years and years, we've consulted with our clients and consulting on a comprehensive overall security plan. And the things we've done is monitored burglary detection, access control to limit access to sensitive areas, and also to exterior doors, keeping people out of the building, keeping employees and businesses safe, and video to also go back on that information if something were to happen, and review in real time as well. These types of solutions and cybersecurity seem to be coming together now more than ever. And so how does the cybersecurity interact and coexist with some of these physical security measures?
Yeah, Danny. So ultimately, this is really why we started Heron, in partnership with Bates. We saw the intersection of the physical security and the cybersecurity and just technology in general. Everything is becoming so intertwined now. Danny, every single one of your clients, the Bates clients, understands the value of putting a lock on the front door, putting access control on doors, either interior or exterior, putting cameras in place. And ultimately, we're doing that so that we know that we're trying to keep somebody from getting in the front door, right? If they do get in, we've got access control on interior doors that hopefully they can't get through. But if they do, we have cameras in place to see what they did, what did they do, what did they touch, what did they walk out the door with, right? And so what we're trying to say is that cybersecurity is the same exact thing. We're trying to make sure that we're keeping people from accessing your data. We're putting that lock on the front door so that if something happens, we're trying to stop them at the door. And then really it goes so much deeper than that. If something happens, we have the tools and systems in place. We have the cameras, quote unquote, in place to see what did they do? What did they touch? Did they go out the front door with your data? And if they did, what was that data? We're putting the systems in place that we've all done for years with the physical security, which is so important. But now we're trying to do that with the cybersecurity side of things. Unfortunately now with the remote employees, remote workers, you could have 300 different front doors that we're trying to protect and the data behind those doors. And so making sure that you put the tools and systems in place to watch those things, to protect your employees from harming themselves, in the organization, spending the same amount of effort and time that we have on the physical side and putting that towards the cybersecurity side.
So really just another layer to be thinking about as far as securing yourself, your employees, your business, and your data. Justin, one of the questions we get a lot in our industry, and we'll put you on the spot a little bit. I know we still want to have time for Q&A as well, but this kind of plays into that. And the question we very well may get is, can't I just do this myself? Is there something I can buy, a firewall or piece of equipment that will provide me with proper cybersecurity? Why would I need a managed service provider like you?
Yeah, so there, like I mentioned before, it's a multi-tier approach. There's not one simple button you can click to protect yourself. And ultimately, when you go with someone like Heron, with a managed service provider or a cybersecurity provider, if you will, is the depth of experience and knowledge. We have clients across every single industry you can imagine, from financial to mortgage to medical, insurance, manufacturing. And so what we get to do is we get to see the broader picture of what's happening across all of those different types of organizations and industries, and bringing that experience to every single one of our clients. It doesn't matter if you have 3 employees or 6,000 employees, it just doesn't matter. We're taking that same approach across every single one of clients, and making sure that we can bring that experience, basically the tools that we know, to every single person. And then ultimately, Danny, we don't get to call out sick. You could certainly hire a cybersecurity expert, a cybersecurity team, whatever it is. Someone's going to be on vacation. Someone's going to call out sick. We don't do that. We're here. If something happens, we're on the phone. We're working it through it. We're always here, and that's what you really get. You get an entire IT team of experience, from service desk individuals to engineers to security experts, all in one package, basically.
Okay, makes sense. And another common question, and one of the things that you mentioned keeps people sometimes from researching more or moving forward with cybersecurity, is they think maybe it will be really costly. Can you speak a little bit to what someone maybe should budget for cybersecurity services?
Yeah, of course. You could literally spend $5 million today on cybersecurity. But Danny, what we've done is, like I mentioned, with that NIST cybersecurity framework, is we've said, okay, here are the bare minimum things that you need to do as an organization. And we've basically put a package together saying, look, you as an organization, no matter who you are, no matter what size you are, these are the things that you need to do today to secure your organization from, let's call it 0 to 75, right? So, there are packages as low as literally $7 a month per user. And those are things like, we'll monitor the dark web for compromised credentials. If one of your users' credentials pop up, we're going to call that user, reset their password, make sure they get logged back in, and ultimately make sure that nothing actually got compromised while those credentials were out there. The security and awareness training, like we've been talking about, training your employees. We'll send them through a training course, easy 3 to 4 minute videos. They have to take a little quiz at the end to make sure they're retaining that information and gathering, holding that information so that they're learning, they know. There's a whole bunch of other things, obviously, like antivirus, malware, traditional things like that, all the way up to advanced antivirus, like the new EDR software with artificial intelligence. And then ultimately, Danny, the last thing I really want to talk about is MFA, or two-factor authentication. If you haven't heard what it is or what it does, if there's anything you take from today's webinar, it's please contact whoever is responsible for your technology. If you're on Google G Suite for your email, or you're on Office 365 for your email, you need to turn on MFA today. It is the single most powerful thing you can do to protect your email platforms in your organization by adding an extra security layer to your email login process, so that ultimately if your credentials get compromised, or if someone's trying to brute force attack your passwords, they can't get in without that second factor, two-factor authentication. It's so powerful. If you're on either one of those platforms, it's likely that you're already paying for it. It's just not turned on. But definitely get that done. It's so powerful. I think you're muted there, Danny.
Sorry about that. So thanks so much, Justin. I think what we're going to do now is kick it to Q&A. I think Danielle may have some questions that came through during the presentation or prior to. And then also, if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to send those along either through the chat here, or you can see the information on screen as well. We'd love to answer any questions that you have. So Danielle, have we had some that have come through?
Yep, I have a few questions, and I bet Justin has more in his chat box too. But one of them, and I think you did touch on this, is my business too small to utilize managed services? So you want to reiterate again? Yeah.
Not in the slightest. No one is safe, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you have one employee or 6,000, like I said. If you have money in a bank account, if you have data for your clients, or even just for your own business, you are a target. It doesn't matter what size you are.
Yeah. Another one that came in is, do I have to sign a contract?
Perfect. Good question. So the short answer to that is yes. Generally speaking, just from the amount of effort and time it takes to get all of these systems in place, we generally do require a contract, but that term is negotiable.
Okay. And then how long does it take to get all the pieces put together for your organization?
Man, Danielle, some of these things can literally be turned on in hours. They're quick, easy things. The security, the training, the security and awareness training, dark web protection, those things we can literally turn on almost at a flip of a switch. Some of the other ones like multi-factor authentication, things like that take a little bit longer. But ultimately, I mean, you could protect yourself significantly more than you are today with a very, very short period of time.
Okay. Well, that's good to know for people. So this is a good one. So, a lot of people are working remote. This person said a lot of my team works remote now. They use their own phones and tablets, so not company issued devices that they would automatically handle. So what does the solution look like for employee devices to protect the email, the messaging, the cloud access to the data?
Great. That's a fantastic question. There is software out there called MDM, Mobile Device Management. It is a app, for lack of a better way to say it. It is an app that you install on your employee devices. What it does is ultimately segregates your employees' personal data from your company's business data. And if they lose their device, whatever it is, you as the organization have the ability to delete that data. It creates containers on that device so that you own your data, your employee owns their data, but you have control of your own business data on that employee's device. It's so powerful and ridiculously inexpensive.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier because so many people are still working like in home offices or just starting to come back into the office like we are. So do you ever run into employees like, oh, I don't want you putting something on my phone, are you tracking my phone? Is there any like tracking involved in that?
Absolutely. So we obviously get that all the time. The easy answer is there is tracking, but it is all configurable. So you have the ability to turn switches on and off of what you want to be able to control for your organization. Obviously, these platforms are extremely powerful and can do a bunch of things, but it's just how you configure it. Generally speaking, no, we are not we are not tracking employees' own personal devices. We don't know where they are or what websites they're browsing on their own personal device. We're not tracking those types of things. It's more so just making sure that, again, we can recover that data or delete that data in the event that that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. And part of your awareness training program, don't you guys tell people to not text as part of, like, to use one of the apps that you're like, we use Teams at our office, right? So to use Teams to text, basically to chat instead of using chat, like.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing with texting is that always lives on that device. With things like Teams or Slack or any other messaging platform, again, you ultimately control that data. You own it. If the employee leaves, you know you can pull it back. And also, generally speaking, those platforms are encrypted. You know, iMessaging on iPhones, things like that. Yes, sure, it's encrypted. But these messaging platforms are built for this type of conversations. They're encrypted. Right. A lot of times, especially with Office 365, that data never leaves your Office 365 environment. It's all internal to your own communications. So it really helps you maintain that security posture when you use something like that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Do you see any other questions in your chat box on your side?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that's it. And I think we're right on time, which is awesome. So if you are one of the gift card winners, we will email it to the email address you registered for the webinar on, and we are going to upload this recording to YouTube. And we hope to hear from you if you need help with your cybersecurity. Thanks so much for coming in today, everybody.
Thank you all.